our country is rebounding. The economy is rebounding pretty well. We may feel on a personal level some challenges. Those of us who are in business, my sister thinks that I am government. I keep saying I'm a hybrid, hopefully. She thinks, yes, but I stand in between. And I think people who stand at the intersection of things probably know better both worlds. So we had a 4.6% trade increase from about 12.3 billion to 12.8 by April. That's total trade, import and export. But what grew very fast were imports. So I just want you media people to take these figures because they are a sign of where we are coming from, and for us as PACEID, why we seem like the day has 28 hours. Why we really need to work hard. Imports grew to 8.2 billion from 7.5. That percentage growth is much higher than exports. Exports grew to 4.1 billion. If you remember, before COVID lockdowns, we were somewhere around 5.5. So this curve coming up is 1.13% growth. And I thank God for it, and I thank exporters, producers, manufacturers, people who are really saying, yes, the domestic market is great, but there's something greater, which is called getting into new markets and other people's markets, because a company that sells in another country knows better how to work out things. So I just thank them for this spike. Total investments in the entire East African community went down from $11 billion just about end of 2019 to 6.5 billion by the time we opened up the economies. That's a huge fall, it's a 50% fall in FDI. But Uganda's FDI, just after we began opening up from last year, it grew to $1.4 billion by April. It's a 16% increase. And for me, that's great. It means that there's trust and confidence in the economy and that things can look better than the time of lockdowns. So that's why I'm very excited that you have banks here, you have insurance companies, you have retail outlets, you have telecom companies coming together to say we're committed to what was shared in February this year. I think we should clap for them. Particularly MTN, because for me, there's such a thing in business and in life called staying power. When you don't give up, when you are resilient, when you say, I will do this, and you do it. Staying power is an investment of time in something. And when we invest time, it means we have trust. And if we have trust, it means we support the vision. So that the companies can come together, and by saying thank you, MTN, I'm not undermining any other person, but that the house is growing in terms of people who made a commitment to do a return summit, specifically a business summit that emphasizes trade, investment, and growth. I am extremely, extremely excited, and I really want to thank you very much. So when I was stepping out, I asked Brenda from our team, where are the members of our catalog, the 45 people who we went with in Feb? Because now we are at 60, as we keep, you've seen us in other countries, our catalog keeps increasing. So next week we're starting specific export preparedness training for each market, starting with the US. We will also train for South Africa. We will train for Serbia, so that the private sector is not the big guys alone. I really love the big guys, but the small guys are the ones that make the big picture for the big ones. And the more exporters we have on our catalog, the more that will participate in this summit. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us. So if you look around us, everything is changing. And the reason I'm here is to share with you the age of that change that we put our hands and keep feeling as PACEID, Because if you want to change anything, you should put your hand in the future and try and disrupt today. Because today, you deal with taxes, you deal with other business, you deal with employees, you deal with the technology of today. But what's relevant today is not often what will save you tomorrow. To be able to put your hand in the future, you got to change. And for me, the change in our economy starts with, when I wake up, which market am I in outside Uganda? What am I selling? And so if you look at distribution channels changing completely, collapsing to distribution online. The distribution channels we've known growing up, I'm a child from the farm. Who knows, you go to a shop, you buy something, you find it there on Monday, you find it there next month. Now, these things find you in your house, off your phone. And huge retail outlets have had to adjust, so I don't know 20 years from now how distribution will be. The technology we are using today won't be the technology used in 2030. It will be different. If you ask these companies, they will tell you the innovations they have to do to keep up with the changes. Yesterday, I received a young girl, Ugandan girl, who I had seen online. I think she has a financial background, studied finance, but she likes music. So she went to a city called Bishkek. Who knows? Where's Bishkek? Geography. You study your geography. It's Kyrgyzstan. You know those stands, Kazakhstan, Turkestan. So I saw her with a large audience doing some DJ work. And she's Ugandan. She has a tattoo on her arm with a map of Uganda and a vein that shows that her serotonin, who knows what serotonin means, is Ugandan. And she's only 25. And she comes to see me. She's in workout wear, and she works in Nairobi, and she's an executive member of One Acre Fund. So where do you place this customer? These are your customers. These are your voters. These are your consumers. These are your CEOs tomorrow. They've all grown on the phone. And if you don't put your hand in the future and deal with what is needed tomorrow, trouble. Population changes, resource constraints, needs constraints. So with all these changes, Uganda has constrained manufacturing and assembly capacity. With those changes happening, constrained capacity in manufacturing and assembly. Low patents. Look at just our patents we register every year. Very, very small. Look at our R&D expenditure as part of GDP, extremely small. Look at our, and I'm saying these things to us Ugandans, not to embarrass you, but to challenge you to know that there's such a thing called timing and opportunity. That if we don't get things done now, and we do them by ourselves, us as private sector, with some government officials who are switched on, we will really not go far. So our target by 2028 is that we could increase by $6 billion of some of the sectors I see being played on the screen. And those are the sectors we want, as I'll be concluding, these companies to think about and more when they're attracting people who will come in September. 6 billion is very small. That's what Bill Gates donates every year. Naye in Buganda twogera nti neziko okolima gaali magi. You start where you are. It means that the chickens you see in the field were once eggs. But we have a long-term view. Remember the staying power I mentioned? We're not here for 5 years. Everybody has. People call me, Odrek, thank you for the initiative. I say, shut up, I'm not in an initiative. We have too many initiatives, too many programs, too many projects. No. We're aiming at $100 billion worth of exports out of our country by the year 2062. Who knows what will happen on 9th of October 2062? Many of you, some of you will be here. What will happen? Uganda makes a century. Uganda makes 100 years. We're just 38 years away. If you think 38 years is small, go check when NRM came. Many of you are older than 1986. So don't think of 5 years. Have a long-term projection. So that's our focus. Now, we know you cannot predict the future. It's not possible to predict the future. It's meaningless. but it's invaluable to plan for the future. And that's what we do by trying to disrupt today. So there are 4 things I want to ask these companies, and please join me in asking for those things. The first one is the question of coffee. And coffee, I know that there's no coffee company here, but I'm looking for what you call corporate influence. If I'm a sizable company by market capitalization, I should be able, as a CEO, to pick up for my phone and say, I need you to think about Uganda. I should call the CEO of Nestle or another company and say, Uganda is doing some good things. So if you take coffee, 86% of all our green beans end up in 6 countries in Europe. Don't have to name them, don't have time to tell you. But that 86% is roasted by only 10 top companies that make $55 billion, just roasting. How much do you make in Uganda? We're very excited. We made 850 last year, 850 million. How much do we make across Africa? 2.5. The roasting companies, none of them is in Africa. None of them is in Uganda. I don't have time to tell you who they are. I know them. So I want to ask these companies, who extracts raw material completely from a place and take out full value and leaves no value in a market in which you are trading? And they are good people. They are people with a good conscience. I don't think this is possible in Europe. If Europe was growing coffee and all of it is brought to Africa for processing, there would be war. There would be subsidies for farmers, just like, you know, I'm a cattle rearer. I know cows earn $2 a day in Europe. A day, a cow. Our people don't earn 1, some of our people. So there would be war if all your strategic raw material leaves no value. So those 10 companies, I can quietly share them with you. Whoever has influence, I know what they have. I have traveled and talked to many people, and I understand the sense of how people do things. There is a theory that I cannot process coffee in Uganda because you don't have labs, you don't have infrastructure, you don't have IPs. There is a litany of why not, but I never hear, we can do it. Why can't we? Why can't we? If I produce 8 million bags, I'm heading to 12 million 60 kg bags. Why can't I have Lavazza, for example, that's signed with PepsiCo, that is now going to Yum, China? They make about $12 billion worth of processing. Why can't they have a plant in Uganda? What's wrong? Why can't we have it in? So, corporate influence on our strategic raw materials. I use coffee, but that could be for minerals. That could be for cotton. That could be, we want those companies that we can have in the room to have a genuine conversation on strategic co-investment. We are not asking for freebies and support. This is the best form of corporate social responsibility if you are able to achieve it on home ground. It's not the president's message, it is our household message. It is a message for 12 million dependents on coffee. It is a message for 1.8 million farmers, 532,000 hectares of land in Uganda covered with coffee, but extracted value completely out of the country. If you get your sleep when you know those facts, you are not patriotic. It should hurt you to the extent that you should fight to use all influence you can to ensure that we can extract some value, at least 20% processing in country. That's number 1 request I want to make, just as an example. Request number 2 is manufacturing and assembly of FMCGs. So that's number 2. Number 3, I'm asking for a conversation about intellectual property, partnerships with farms. You know, when you disembowel an entity, when you just put a factory, but the real heart and soul lies in Belgium. In other words, the country has no IP. Young people in Makerere and Mbarara University don't have IP over a particular product. They are really playing on the edges. They are not internally making transformation and taking ownership. Can we have a conversation with, there's a committee the president set up, Dr. Muranga, Dr. Msenero, the chairperson of Makerere University Council. Let's look at R&D and patents across several products and say, how can we retain these so that we get our young people to use them to scale? That's number 3. Number 4, refrigeration, so that we can keep our products longer. Storage, so that we have minimum capacity available at our borders and our airports to sell. Transportation to markets. We need companies in that space. So Lake Albert had a ship called Corindon. The Banyoro called it Kalindoni. I have said this before. 1928, started by the British, 800 tons, crashed 1962. Butiaba does not have 1,000 tons to take cooking oil across to Congo. Give me someone to do a vessel there so that we don't use 15 horsepower engines to take our grains. That's the conversation that creates value. We need to redefine the value architecture for companies that have invested in Uganda and demand more from them, because the markets that they take their profits, fantastic, they should return something by this genuine conversation. I wish I can be a fly on every procurement in Uganda, because we procure from the rest of the world, but we don't ask the question, if I procure those chairs, what am I selling to you? That's going to be the next attack PACEID is doing. You're buying X from Japan, how much does Japan buy from us? Let's go and negotiate. Finally, market access. Help us with market access, because there's a lot of NTBs that you hear, even when things are opened, that we think using corporate influence, we can get our companies to get more access. So we've solved some things. I'm extremely happy that some things were resolved in the last 4 or 5 months. So 5G, I've heard from MTN. Now 5G allows Dr. Echun from Johannesburg to be able to treat people in Mulago online. So 5G is not in the air. It's real business. So that the doctors who left 46 surgeons in one city of Johannesburg are Ugandans. How can they treat people in Mulago if there is no 5G? I'm glad that UCC, working with MTN and other companies, and the conversations in the back room we have had, that sector has been opened up. I have had, we asked, thank you, that encourages us, thank you. I have heard, we had directly the need for towers in game parks, and we asked the president to make special directives on April 19th to reconstruct aerodromes, to deal with these towers over airports, Gulu, wherever they are. And I'm hoping that that is going to be worked on. If it has not, I'm told the fees in game parks have gone down to put. So there are things we have fixed, right? But there are things outstanding. You heard her speak about visas. We now need that to be resolved by a government conversation. Because when you call me public sector, often I feel offended, because I know my heart is just private sector. When you hear that trucks at the border for a month, no one is there, go, fix it. So we want to fix this issue of visas, want to fix the issue of IDC, and I think we should very urgently, so that by the beginning of September, we have a good story to tell to both parties. I can go on and on. I just want to stop here to thank you very much for this coordination. Really, I thank you and God bless you.
I'd like to hear from you. Please email us at info@tapmedia.com and visit our website at www.tapmedia.com. You can also visit our offices located at Tomosi Business Park, Luzira, Port Bell Road, or call 0414 220 702. Thank you.